After a successful title defense at Death Before Dishonor, I think it's about time we start talking about Athena. And is she the greatest women's champion in the game today? We're going to talk about it, so stay tuned. This is WrestlXtra.
Yo, this is WrestlXtra. I'm your boy, A Dazzle, the Black Wrestling Advocate. As always, joined by my trios team, Mex, the WrestleManiac, if you will. Yeah. And, of course, the professor that is Gerard Bonner. Mex decided to go straight in. Is Athena the greatest women's champion on the scene today? It's a great question. It's a very, very good question, a very valid question. You know what? And what's great is I was going to start this whole thing off with a few facts, so we can actually look at that question very clearly. So just before Athena was at Death Before Dishonor, she actually broke the record for the longest reigning Ring of Honor Women's Champion. Currently at 227 days, but I think when she broke it, she beat Mercedes Martinez's record of 220 or 221 days. Obviously, you know, she went on to defeat Willow Nightingale, which was also the first ever female main event in Ring of Honor history at a pay-per-view. She is now 37-0 in Ring of Honor. Her only defeat was in the Owen Hart tournament to Willow Nightingale. Obviously, she's corrected that by beating her for, you know, a more important match. She's had, in those 37 matches, she's had 12 title defenses, including ones against Miyu Yamashita, Emi Sakura, Yuka Sakazaki, Sky Blue, Kiera Hogan twice, Willow Nightingale twice.
Keep going.
Keep
Yes.
going. And in those 37 matches as well, we've had this whole array of proving ground matches against the likes of we've seen people like Tootie Lynn make an appearance on ROH, Promise Braxton, Trisha Dora, who's obviously now a regular there. We've seen the return to TV of former NXT Zeta Zhang, former Impact wrestler, former Impact Knockout Casey Spinelli, even beating former Knockouts champion, and I believe she's a Hall of Famer as well, Madison Rayne.
Correct.
There's more. We could keep going on. So the question really is she the greatest women's champion in the world of wrestling right now? I'm going to go to Gerard first. Gerard, what are your thoughts when it comes to the big question Mex decided to hit us with at the start?
Right. Well, dare I pull out an old Stone Cold reference and say, oh, hell yeah. Because at this point, and I think there's a couple of things that are working at the same time. You've got Bianca Belair no longer as women's champion. You've got Jade Cargill no longer as women's champion. Their replacements being Asuka and Chris Statlander, respectively. You know, Asuka's had, I think, 2 title defenses now, and both of them were somewhat marred in controversy and interference. Chris Statlander has had about 6 or 7 title defenses. Still not in terms of opponents. I mean, some cool opponents, but it's been very rushed because she just won that title at Double or Nothing. So we're talking basically 2 months. I think Athena has, and then of course there's Trinity, who just won her championship and has not had a chance to defend the title. So looking at all of those things, the other champion you could argue potentially would be Rhea Ripley, who Ripley has not had title defenses, and she's just been beating up everybody. So I think we have to say Athena, as of right now, is the best women's champion in pro wrestling. You know, it's hard to find another one who has done what she has done at such a consistent level. Now, I think the reason she doesn't get the respect that's due is because she has the Ring of Honor Women's Championship, and that title and Ring of Honor has not certainly gotten the kind of accolades perhaps that it should. That championship of all these titles is still one of the newer championships compared to, say, the Knockouts title. The AEW women's title, they're about neck and neck in terms of, you know, how long they've all been around. But I also think with Ring of Honor not being seen as regularly as others because it's behind a paywall, many don't really get to see the greatness of Athena on a weekly basis. I'm going to make another interesting argument here. You said she's the greatest women's champion as of right now. I would say right now she's neck and neck, and you could argue, I'll say neck and neck. I'll keep neck and neck with Orange Cassidy in terms of your best champions in the game right now, period. Because when you look at their title defenses, the regularity of how much they're on our television, the caliber of matches they're having, those two need to be mentioned in the same breath at this point.
Very, very, very strong point. Mix, we're talking about the women's champions of the world. You know a little bit more maybe about the Japanese scene as well. Are there any ladies on that side of the world that that could maybe be part of this argument or this discussion with Athena?
I was just thinking about this. I was just thinking, you know, even, you know, the interest that I guess was sparked through Stardom and Mercedes Moné over there in Stardom. You know, we're talking about the IWGP Women's Championship. That's died down a lot. Like I've been kind of trying to keep an eye on, you know, when the defenses of that has been happening. And at this point, I'm pretty confident in saying that title may not have been defended since Otani won it against Mercedes Moné. So, and I mean, we've spoken about, you know, their booking of that title. You know, that's the brand new, that's the baby title out of all of these women's world titles. And to be fair, they've put it on obviously fantastic names in terms of Kairi Sane, Mercedes Moné, Iwatani, but like they've swept the belt so often. It hasn't really sat with anyone and, you know, built that focus. And now I guess it's not around the star names. It hasn't really done much of anything. I'm pretty sure in saying that it hasn't been defended since it's been won. So I don't even think, you know, I know people love the Far East, they love Japan and everything. Sit down. We can't involve them in this discussion right now because nothing really is happening for them. And yeah, it's I think, yeah, you know, Gerard kind of opened it up to just more than the women. Like she's doing some amazing stuff. I had tuned out of Ring of Honor. I committed to watching the pay-per-views because the pay-per-views are always good stuff. Death Before Dishonor was good stuff. But she's bringing me back in. She's making me keep one eye on it. And, you know, her and Trisha Dora joining the infantry. That's kind of made me start tuning back into Ring of Honor, just seeing what's going on there. They're doing Trisha Dora dirty, but that's a conversation for another day. Yeah, I think Athena, like, we questioned for a long time, what is her character? What is she doing? I was super critical on my platforms when she joined AEW and she just looked off the pace. I didn't really show remorse that, okay, maybe she hasn't been wrestling for a while and all of them kind of factors. Now she's the pace setter.
Yes.
You know, people are tracing her.
Big time.
We mentioned Statlander. I would say, you know, in terms of women's belts and stuff across the board, Statlander's probably second to Athena. Because Toni Storm, she's good. She's a fantastic wrestler. We know that, but not really doing much of anything with that title. It's almost like she's in a bit of a holding pattern until Jamie Hayter gets fit again.
Yeah.
Asuka, like you mentioned, Gerard, she's all, you know, Charlotte wants her, Bianca wants her. They're spitting mist at each other. They're interrupting each other's matches. It's all a bit of a mess. Rhea Ripley is fantastic, but is doing nothing with her world title.
Correct.
So yeah, like, not to say that everything else is rubbish and Athena's just shining. She's actually just setting the pace. Like I said, like even when those other women pick up, like it's gonna be hard to catch her. You know, on the Wrestling's channel at the end of the year, we always do our tier rankings. Who's been the best of each division across the world for the year? And you know, it's going to be hard for people to catch Athena, even if your favorites pick up from this point. You know, we're already in July, August next week. It's going to be hard for anyone to catch her to be the best women's champion this year.
I agree.
Because she's been doing. If she continues on this trajectory, we're already probably talking the best Ring of Honor women's champion. She's got the main event.
Yes,
one of their biggest shows. Like, in all the accolades, that would mean that this is a historic run, even if it is just Ring of Honor. So power to her. She shut me up, that's for sure.
Yeah. That and for me, that is my favorite part, is the fact that she shut you up. I mean, me as well. I'm not joking.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it when a wrestler can prove me wrong, or anyone can prove me wrong in any walk of life or whatever it is. I love that when it happens, because even when we are critical, we are hoping for the best.
Yes.
So with Athena being in this position that she's in now, and I watched the match again a few hours ago, and I was
it was good.
It was so good.
Yeah,
it was so good. And of course, let's not forget Willow Nightingale as well, in what she's done the last few weeks and months. But then the other question is this. Obviously, we talked about this match in the lead up, and the couple of matches that they've had in the Owen Hart tournament as well, and what's going to happen, and who comes out better, and all that kind of stuff. Does this hurt Willow Nightingale after she has just won this Owen Hart tournament? Have we already kind of killed this Owen Hart tournament win? And I asked that not necessarily because of what Willow's done, but more so the fact of how difficult AEW had it in terms of making this Owen Hart tournament mean anything. So now that she's won it, then lost to the person who she beat in the semi-final, not the final, the semi-final. What does this do for Willow? Does and the Owen Hart tournament, I don't know what the word is, but yeah, what does it do? Gerard, what do you think?
Here's what's interesting, and I know we're going to get to the men's winner, but I do think it's interesting to see the very different trajectories as of immediately following the wins that the women's winner had versus the men's winner. Correct. The men's winner ends up main eventing Collision and winning, right? Starts Collision, ends Collision, gets his hand raised. The women's winner gets to be historic in terms of main eventing the Ring of Honor pay-per-view, which is huge, but doesn't win. So I don't know if this is as much of a function of the Owen Hart piece as there is a question that I found myself asking, and I feel like it's kind of you remember the cartoon Peanuts with the kid Linus who had I'm not thinking about Linus. I'm thinking about the other kid who had the garbage stuff, the cloud that was always around him, right? So part of me wonders, is there a cloud around Willow Nightingale right now that says we don't take her seriously enough to watch her have a superstar-like run? I mean, think about this. She wins and this is what I think is egregious. She beats Mercedes Moné, becomes the women's champion, and every single announcer who talks about it always throws in the caveat that nobody believed that she would win, that she was the only one who believed she would win. When people talk about it outside of announcers in the podcast world, they always have the asterisk next to it saying, well, had Moné not gotten injured, it's always that. There's never a moment for the rise of Willow Nightingale that we have given to her that says Willow Nightingale stands on her own as a star. And so I think we're waiting for that moment, which clearly the Owen Hart tournament did not do. Now, I don't know if the answer is that she should have beaten Athena. I don't know, right? But to me, the real question comes this week. What happens for Willow this week? Does she end up, I mean, to me, at this point, she should have an automatic shot at least against Statlander for the TBS title. We might even need to be talking about her in the world title picture, but she's already had a world title shot, right? So give her a TBS title shot and a run so that with no excuses, with no outside interference, so we can start to believe that Willow Nightingale doesn't just have a great theme song and a bubbly personality, but that she can be believed as a viable, verifiable force in this sport.
Max?
I think that's the issue. Gerard nailed it on the head right there. Bubbly personality, baby face. And this is like the age-old issue with promoters when you have that in a bottle. The crowd love her anyway. She doesn't need to win. Incorrect.
Right.
She needs to win. Like, this was ultimately the death of Bayley's character on the main roster.
Facts.
I remember when I first saw Bayley in NXT, like, I didn't really get it. Obviously, I'm a grown man. I'm not into all the hugging and all of the Bayley buddies and all that kind of stuff. But she was a good wrestler. What her and the other three other horsewomen were doing was brilliant. I slowly began to get it. By the time she was ready for main roster, I was saying, as long as they don't botch this is John Cena as a woman.
Yes.
But they botched it. They got it wrong. Bayley has since reinvented herself and is great at it. And I think with Willow, it's like the reincarnated. This is Bayley all over again. Again, a very not the model-esque looking woman like you would argue Bayley. It wasn't either. Just someone super relatable, super bubbly, great with everyone. Everyone loves her. Like I can't help but jigging in my chair when she's making her entrance music. Like I love it all, and she's just getting better and better in the ring. But it has to be paid off with wins. Like that's ultimately what this game is about. From her, okay, main event in Ring of Honor is excellent, but it's hard because you can't necessarily expect her to beat Athena, and they put up a good story as to she beat her the other week and she came close. There was a hella near falls in this match. It's now on AEW TV, since that's where the big Owen Hart win came. That's where they need to do something, and she hasn't really ever been portrayed apart from this one instance of the Owen Hart tournament, which we're still trying to understand what that means. Where she's ever had a big win like that. I just feel like they can't mess this up and just take it for granted ultimately. There's a lot that needs to happen. They need a big baby face in that division. I don't think there is one.
Right.
There's good guys and good girls and people that we like as the women that on TV. They got what's that, Sky Blue, and they got baby faces and stuff like that. But this could potentially be their biggest one if they get this right. But I just don't know that they know what they're going to do with her on AEW TV. And my last point is just we saw Ring of Honor women's champion in Athena come over to AEW and lose an Owen tournament. We've now seen the Owen tournament winner go over to Ring of Honor and lose. I said this last week or 2 weeks ago. What does this universe mean? Like, I just don't understand, and I don't know if we should have an answer to this, or maybe I'm thinking too into it, but it's doing my head in, quite honest. Like,
let me add to that point, because that's not the only crazy crossover. We also had 2 weeks ago the ROH television champion, who is seemingly invincible, go on to AEW television and lose to CM Punk. And then come back to Ring of Honor. So when you have Ring of Honor champions, Brian Cage, like all of these champions who have come from Ring of Honor, who their world champion is lost, right? So when they all come on to AEW television and lose, it's clear that we are not the same, right? We could have the same daddy, but we are not the same. And I think, unfortunately, that point is being walked out. So it's now hard to say what holds more weight, Willow beating Athena in AEW or Athena beating Willow in ROH. We don't know, and that's unfortunate because everybody gets damaged. I mean, if you think about it, again, because Ring of Honor is behind that paywall, it's very safe to say that everybody who's watching AEW is not watching Ring of Honor. So then how do you prove the validity of those champions if when they show up on television, they're always losing, but it's almost like the NXT Raw and SmackDown conversation at this point. When your NXT champion is losing on Monday Night Raw, how do you then see him as a viable threat, when he goes back to NXT? If you see what I'm saying?
The following night as well.
Yes.
Literally.
Yes.
And this was another point I was going to make, or something that came to mind as well as you guys were talking. It's like, it's great that we've had the matches, or the matches that they've had have been great. But I think for me, the better thing to do would have been to just not have Athena in that Owen Hart tournament whatsoever.
Yes.
It was absolutely pointless. There was no need for it. Especially now that she's gone on to beat Willow and retain her women's championship. It would have made a little bit more sense if Willow won. We could have had, some kind of sense made of it, and then hopefully see Athena either chase the championship or be on AEW full time. And that would have made sense. But now that it's great to see Athena doing what she's doing. That's why we're talking about her as much as we are right now. But it's just this whole confusion again now with, someone going here and winning, then going here and losing, and then which one's which and which one's more important. And why are we asking these questions when there are so many people that could be used in those spots?
Yeah.
That's my issue. It's that there are so many people that could be using these spots that some are being, used twice or duplicated and all that kind of stuff. I mean, we even saw it in the match before that the main event as well, with Best Friends and Death Triangle and Pac and Claudio, and they were on Blood and Guts like three days ago. Like, what?
Right.
What is all of this? So yeah, all of that's just a bit confusing. The other thing that we have found a little bit confusing is also as well, we mentioned Ricky Starks already. Owen Hart tournament men's winner, Ricky Starks. He's obviously very clearly now, I believe, on this trajectory of turning heel. Obviously, he won the Owen Hart tournament final by holding onto the ropes against CM Punk. He's then, had a match where he's teamed with Christian Cage, who is quite clearly a heel.
Quite
clearly a heel.
No ambiguity here.
Right. And obviously won that match against, I think it was CM Punk and Darby Allin, pinning Darby Allin, and again, holding onto the ropes. It was interesting. I'll probably paraphrasing a little bit when the commentator said, once you can excuse it, second time, something's going on here, lads.
Right.
Mex, what do you make of this whole thing with Ricky? Is it needed?
Is what needed? The heel turn?
The heel turn.
I think I wouldn't say needed, but you can see how much more comfortable he is in this persona. Whether it's a full-on heel turn, maybe the full-on heel turn is to come, maybe he's just staying in this tweener land right now, just being very cocky. The flamboyance, I love it all. Like he said, "Oh, I just wanted to bring up my Louis to show it off." I nearly went online and just had I need to buy something now. Like, I just give me the energy. Like, love it all. Pulled up to do his little intro for Collision in his little car and everything. Like, this is where he resides. Like, in this sector of, I don't necessarily need to be a heel, but this is my domain, cocky, and I love it. And even his excuse of using the rope against CM Punk, the history books aren't going to say that. The history books are going to say I won, and that's it. I love that. Like, I absolutely love it. So I think he's just very comfortable right now. The dynamics in this entire segment is very messed up. I think it's very, very messed up. Like, the crowd are clearly not with CM Punk unless the crowd is a Chicago crowd. So why we are trying to get CM Punk over as a face, So much so we're sending Darby Allin out to say, oh yeah, he loves AEW. Like,
Right.
oh
Yeah.
give it a rest.
begging it.
It makes Ricky Starks the full-on heel. Like, I think Ricky's in a really good position now, and even him holding the actual belt, we never saw that last year with Adam Cole. It was a one and done.
True.
The trophies disappeared, but he's carrying around the belt, which is another belt on AEW TV. But this might be them trying to make us feel like this means something, or at least keep Ricky Starks, make us feel that they're doing something with Ricky Starks because he's carrying around this title. But so far, so good for him.
The other line that he dropped as well during that promo, which was just excellent. Obviously talking about how he won that final match as well. He said, "If you were in my shoes," which I'm proud of, by the way,
yes,
you would have done the same. Oh,
my debit card was in my hand.
Yes,
I was ready. I said, I want them too, man. I'm
Prada.com.
Yes.
No, it was brilliant.
So as much as I believe we can establish, as much as we're not really understanding why Ricky's turning heel, we know he's embracing it, and he'll make the most of it as much as possible. That man you can give him anything, and he'll make it work. The other thing he did that with was the FTW Championship.
Yes.
He is now holding this pink belt, which he makes work because that's just what he does. It was interesting. Mex on Twitter asked the question, what's this Owen thing all about? Is Ricky, what is it here for? And I responded by saying he made the FTW Championship mean something, even to the point where Jungle Boy is happy now that he's won it, just won it.
Right.
Gerard, do you think that this is now possible for Ricky Starks to do with this whole Owen Hart Foundation thing?
I do think it's possible. I think Ricky Starks is proving that it's the man that makes the title and not the title that makes the man. The idea that he can take the FTW Championship, which, they all were saying, hey, AEW doesn't recognize this. And all of a sudden that kicks off, a whole show. Like, wow, we're really on. And, and Hook gets beat for it. Right. So it's like, yeah, it's something that he is establishing. My question is, at what point are they going to stop giving him belts that don't matter? Right. And we actually give him a title that actually is recognized. Okay. He proved it with the FTW Championship. Yep. There's nothing left to prove with the Owen Hart title. Give this man a belt that you guys actually recognize, that you guys have rankings for. Remember those? Because, wins and losses matter. So I think it just makes sense to do this kind of thing and stop putting these, because here's the thing. If you defend the Owen Hart Championship,
right,
and you lose it, what does that mean? Does that mean your tournament win was nullified? Like, what are we? True. The idea that we're all having to come up with creative concepts for this Owen Hart victory is problematic in and of itself. So I think that they've got to just flat out say, this is what it means. If it's no more than, hey, we get a discount on Owen Hart merch from the Owen Hart Foundation, right? Tell me something. Just don't make me imagine it and figure it out myself. I'm just saying, like, I'm sure Ricky Starks could get that gear over a lot better. So just make it mean something and make it clear to us. Because at this point, with all the Ricky Starks beat CM Punk, why is he not in a world title picture? Period. Like, what is left to prove? You're going to put him in the TNT picture? He beat CM Punk.
True.
CM Punk came on TV last week and said he's the world champion.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
He's running around carrying a world title belt that we still haven't proven is in that bag or not. Why aren't we? So here's the thing. If you beat a world champion, don't you get a title shot? Everywhere else that happens, including AEW, these make it make sense. That's all. That's all. He shouldn't have to make an invisible title belt mean something when he's already beaten an alleged world champion.
And they made reference to to it within the promo they cut with each other. Like I think they'll talk about what's in
what's in the bag,
right, and stuff like that. So to be honest, that should be the next step on Collision. Ricky says, "Look, this is all nice and all the Owen Hart thing, but I want to challenge you for your world title because I pinned you and stuff." So
yeah, they hinted at it during the promo, but it kind of just lasted a line and then it wasn't followed up. And I was like, huh? What was that? What?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
And then obviously then Christian Cage comes out and interrupts the whole thing.
What kind of man carries a title that he didn't win?
What a brilliant line, right? Brilliant. Oh my God.
I said this guy's world class, man.
Perfect.
Incredible.
Perfect. But this is the thing as well, though. Even with that whole segment, you've now got fans, or you've got fans thinking so many different things, because you've got the Owen Hart winner, you've got the self-proclaimed world champion who kind of in a way hasn't necessarily claimed he's world champion but says he's never lost it and is holding a bag which has got something in it. I think it's probably Jake the Snake, to be honest.
Right. I think it's Damien.
You know what I mean? Yeah, Damien, exactly. Then you've got the TNT champion who isn't quite the TNT champion, who is the TNT champion, who walks with the TNT champion and the championship belt. Anyway, so you've got all this confusion happening in one segment. But in terms of Ricky Starks, it could go so many ways. CM Punk, whatever's in the bag. Mixing it up with Christian Cage. Yes, they were tag team partners, but Ricky's not necessarily a heel to that level where they wouldn't put him against Luchasaurus or Christian Cage. And then you got Darby Allin, who's in the picture, who won the what was it called again? The Rampage Rumble or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Royal Rampage.
Yeah.
Royal Rumble.
Right. Let's call it World War III with your 2 rings. In the world. What are we doing, man?
AEW Collision should be called AEW Confusion, because, mate, it's a
But Collision's a good show, though. That's the crazy
thing. It has been.
Really good show.
It has been. It really has been. It really has been. So I guess what I'm saying is, what even do we do with Ricky Starks at this point? There are ways it can go, but nothing seems to be set in stone. Nothing seems to be quite clear. But I think that's, in some ways, that could be a good thing. But I think at this moment, it's a very bad thing, because it feels as though they don't know themselves, and that's what my thinking is. Gerard, you look like you're itching to say something now.
I'm thinking of a couple of thoughts. For one, part of them not knowing, or at least not making it clear, is I think they want to see how Ricky Starks is going to be received and then decide from there. He's being received very well right now. And so I think that's obviously going to continue. So there's that element. The other element that I think is interesting is, imagine a world where CM Punk just finally says, yes, I am the real world champion, defends against Ricky Starks. Starks wins the real world title. And now we've got a title unification between him and MJF again, right? Like, I think that works, but it has to happen down the road, right? Like, when I say down the road, we still got this MJF Adam Cole thing lingering over us right now. And I would hate to insert Ricky Starks in there now, since MJF seems to be even more popular than ever. Let that whole thing blow over. Let Starks have some random title defenses or whatever, successfully defend his world title. And then, maybe winter is coming, or, maybe the November pay-per-view, they decide, all right, let's do this title unification thing. But I think they don't want to miss another moment with Ricky Starks. They had a great moment last year at Winter is Coming, and clearly it was too soon for him to become the world champion because MJF had just won it. But I think now we've kind of come out of this Chris Jericho thing and the like. Let this man cook. He's obviously your main event. If you can start the show with him and end the show with him and have him as that, winning image over CM Punk twice in 7 days, let this man run. Let him run.
Yeah, I think it's now or never for a couple of reasons with Ricky Starks. you've got him back to a position where, like I say, he was comfortable. I thought the pyro, although it was comedically excessive, it
Yes.
literally made him look like a star at the same time. Like I would ask, I joked around on Twitter. I said, please just ship Wardlow to WWE and put his money from his contract to give Ricky Starks that pyro every single week, because it goes with the exuberant character and everything like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously I like Wardlow, so he doesn't have to go. But yeah, I think Ricky, I think he's one of these people that his contract is up next year. And we already know Ricky, Cody, WWE. There's
especially now.
It's almost like you've got him to this position, you've propped him up again. It's time to do something. I think while Christian and Luchasaurus are kind of nearby within this feud or what happened last week, the TNT, belt could be a nice option as well, and Ricky could do some good stuff with that. The CM Punk and the world title, I think, really should happen. Even if I think CM Punk beats him, like I feel like CM Punk should be acting like, if I'm the world champion, I'm defending this title, and I'm not just waiting for MJF, the inevitable of MJF coming and saying, no, I'm the world champion, let's unify it. Like, he should be acting like a world champion and defending it against him. He's already, taking a jibe at Ricky that you can't beat me without cheating. Right, let's prove it. Let's have a match or whatever the case is. So yeah, I think at this point now, you've got the best part of 6 months to get Ricky Starks right, get him feeling like, okay, these guys are doing something with me here, or I might have to try my trade elsewhere. Like,
I think that's what's going on as well, because it was only like a few months ago that there was this whole talk of Ricky jumping ship. Being seen backstage with Cody Rhodes at I think it was at Royal Rumble or WrestleMania. Royal Rumble and all that kind of stuff. And I think with the pyro, it was WrestleMania-esque. So maybe they've taken the budget that they had for Cody Rhodes and just given it to Ricky Starks and said, we've got this for you, mate. We've been holding this for a while. Here you go. But it definitely needs to be very clear what needs to happen with, or what's happening with Ricky Starks for the next maybe to a year or so. So much potential, so many different ways it can go, and it's going to be very interesting to see how it will and can go with Ricky Starks. Moving away from AEW, we turn our attentions to the WWE. Speaking of guys who dress great, look amazing, got the drip, including Gerard Bonner.
Thank you.
We have seen, we mentioned it last week, but we have even more to talk about this week. We saw Bobby Lashley make an appearance for the first time in a while on SmackDown, but in a short segment where he was talking to the Street Profits, invited him into his limo. They disappeared and went off to talk business. This past Friday on SmackDown, a very even shorter section. We saw Bobby on his phone. He's come off the phone and he's like, nice to see you guys. And in the picture comes Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams. Now, I remember a few months ago where we all got very excited from a picture that was posted by MVP, which had MVP, Omos, Carmelo Hayes, and the Street Profits all in the one picture. It got us talking about the possibility of a Hurt Business 2.0, which also, we were blessed to be given the line from Mix. There is no business without profits.
Exactly.
Woo!
Yeah.
I still want that on a t-shirt. What are we thinking when it comes to this whole thing? Again, like I said, we've mentioned this already from last week. So maybe we may say the same things, but with Carmelo and Trick also being part of this whole little picture, I also read just before we came on air as well that Angelo Dawkins, who celebrated his birthday just the other day, happy belated birthday, was on a podcast or was being interviewed and was asked about this whole potential group. And he just said, you've got to just keep watching. That tells me something's happening. That just tells me something's happening. If he doesn't know, he would have said, I don't know what you're talking about. Gerard, what are you thinking? What are your expectations? What's going through your mind? How excited is this? Where's your mind at with this whole thing?
This feels to me like the new White Rabbit.
Ooh.
This is the new White Rabbit.
Ooh.
Like, I mean, we're getting literally 30 seconds of these guys, and this is all we're talking about, right? Like the next thing they need to do is bring us a QR code at the back of somebody's car or something. As they're pulling off, there's a QR code, and we go, ah, you know. I mean, like it's that kind of thing. As heavy in terms of content as WWE programming and SmackDown has been, we weren't surprised that they were in Orlando and you had NXT stars that were showing up in the audience. That's kind of cool. And even when we saw Trick and Mello in the audience, great, they're the champs. When they went backstage, I went, oh, this is the new White Rabbit. And I don't know what the name of their faction's going to be. I don't know what the premise of it is going to be, but you've got some heavy hitters. And I almost started to wonder what this means for Mello this weekend at Great American Bash, since he's got a title match. But Dirty Dom is proven you can be an NXT champion on the main roster.
Oh, God.
So we could have a world where our NXT champion is connected with Lashley, the Profits, Trick Williams. This seems like a takeover, and I think they can do something really gutsy with it. I don't know which way they go in terms of what their reasoning is. I mean, it certainly could be kind of this, again, elevated Hurt Business kind of thing in terms of how they present themselves and the like. But the talent alone, the things that can be done, it's the new White Rabbit, folks. Get your QR codes ready.
Max, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. I mean, we got SummerSlam next week. If we see a Bianca defeat and then all of a sudden backstage Bobby Lashley, you know, arm around her with the husband, like, come with us sort of thing. Yeah, man, I'm gonna lose my mind. I can't lie. That will be me losing my mind. And just on that, we're talking about people that can join. I think she's the person, character-wise. Again, I've been harping on about character of Bianca since we started this you know, podcast 120 something episodes ago. But she's the person I feel that could benefit from this, just something different. Yeah, because she's been the same athletic champion since day one. She's been on the main roster. So yeah, it would be brilliant if they add her to it. But we just have to literally wait and see, like Dawkins said, what capacity, where they're going with this. I was laughing the other day. I was speaking to Skillet and I was saying that, isn't it funny that out of everyone that Bobby's kind of approached, he's like the least charismatic out of everyone. Like, right. Like all of these man, like they don't, unless he's literally like the godfather at the top of the tree, like they don't need him as like a manager to talk or any of the usual kind of things you would say. You know, he's the one that has, you know, in the past needed somebody else, namely a MVP. So I mean, it's very early to say. It is very White Rabbit-esque right now. That's a great reference. I do think that we can see that WWE are heavily invested in factions right now.
Yes,
they're heavily invested. The Bloodline stuff has more than paid off. Judgment Day has taken off. Like the Judgment Day, like to the point where I was thinking about, if I had time today, which escaped me, I was going to put out a video on the excessive use of Judgment Day right now. I mean, I love Judgment Day, but they can't be. It's too much. You know, it gets too much. So. They're heavily invested in factions, even with the LWO stuff to a lesser level. And there's some other kind of, you know, Alpha Academy, like there's stuff happening. Imperium. I think they've noticed, and this was what I've always loved from as far back as like watching 2015 New Japan. Like, this is the best way for people that we don't even care about and we don't want to necessarily push or book right now. We can still appease them and get them on screen. By putting them in a faction. And it's like they've literally, you know, something's fallen from a tree and hit Triple H in the head. They've just literally clocked that this is a thing, and it's paying off for the Bloodline and Judgment Day. You know, we got LWO final for the United States Invitational, which is good for them. So yeah, this just looks like another way to use all of these guys that are currently, obviously Carmelo and Trick are not on the roster, the main roster, but Street Profits not doing much of anything. Bobby Lashley himself not doing much of anything. So this could be a nice way to kind of tie these guys all together, give them something to do. That you never know, like things could just take off like they did for the Judgment Day, like organically.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bobby Lashley not been on TV since I believe it was mid May.
Yeah,
when he lost to AJ Styles in that the World Championship tournament match. Yeah, it's all very interesting. I'm trying my hardest not to get too excited. The combination of stars is absolutely phenomenal. But it's very, very, very early to speculate as to what exactly is going to happen, what it means, who's actually going to be joining, who's not going to be there, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. Even with, you know, what Gerard's saying about Carmelo being current NXT champion, you know, does he lose it to Dragunov and then come onto the main roster? Does he come into the main roster with the title? We're seeing, you know, Dominic with the North American Championship. So yeah, we just don't know exactly what to expect with this, and I don't want to expect too much because I did it a few months ago and I'm still waiting.
Yeah.
So let's not do it again. So we mentioned Dominic Mysterio. He's now the new North American champion. My heart hurts. My heart hurts for Wesley. I'm actually. I'll be very honest. It's a great thing for Dominic Mysterio. As Mick said, you know, the Judgment Day are so over and they're being used a lot, possibly too much. You've got people arguing the whole thing of, oh, you know, what was the point in the brand split if they're going to be on SmackDown, Raw, and NXT with belts here, there, and everywhere, and accolades and blah blah blah. But yeah, it means now that Wesley has no title. He was set to defend his championship against Mustafa Ali. I think it's quite clear that with the little segment that they had between Wesley and Mustafa before Wesley lost his championship, that more than likely Mustafa's going to face Dominic Mysterio for the NXT North American Championship. In no way does that excite me. In no way does that excite me. I was waiting for my dream match. I didn't know I wanted until I realized it was happening. But it's now not going to happen. What now happens? What now happens with Wesley Mex?
Can I just say, yeah, I thought this was excellent. I thought this was world class. Like, I was so happy at the end of NXT last week. Like, that segment of Wesley, like, we haven't seen him do the open challenge for a while.
Right.
Yep.
Obviously, Dom came in. You're the open challenge guy, right? Give me an open challenge. Give me an opportunity. He did so. Mustafa Ali, like, literally, like, going frantic. Like, you're putting our match in jeopardy. Why are you doing this? You don't need to do it. Wesley brushing it off like, oh, don't worry. Like, it's Dom. Like, I'll be at the pay-per-view sort of thing. Like, he literally didn't think, I'm not just facing Dom. I'm facing the entire Judgment Day.
Right.
Really decent match between these guys as well. Dom getting that win. Like, and it's just the heat of one. We didn't expect it because it's someone from the main roster facing NXT guy for the NXT guy's title. It's not the done thing. We didn't expect it. Wesley has been incredible as a champion. I put out a video. I said he is the best North American champion we've had.
Easily.
And then Dom, probably the most hated person in WWE, has now come and taken his title. The reactions to the live crowd was
my word.
My word. I'm so happy they captured that. Like, this is what it should feel like. Like, I'm watching this at stupid o'clock in the morning because of it's our time here, and I'm here literally holding my mouth, like trying not to scream and wake the household.
Right.
This is shocking stuff, and it was so well done. And I still think we might be in a place where tonight on NXT we get Wesley into that match some way, somehow, make it a triple threat. Because I'm not too sure how Dom is really gonna manage all of this. Maybe they wanted Mustafa Ali to become champion without being pinned by pinning Wesley.
Mhm.
Maybe that's the way to do it. I don't know, but I think Wesley will be at the pay-per-view. And we see him involved in that in a match, triple threat, or whatever the case is. But listen, he's been fantastic as a champion. I was just looking at his prospects of moving him up to main, and I was thinking, how would they use him? Because we're seeing, even the likes of Gargano, injured or not. I don't know if you can get on TV right now. Apollo Crews, we were mentioning before we went live. Like, you see what I mean? Like, it's a tough place, and right, he's a lovable kind of person with a great moveset, but you just don't know what his fortune would be. And then where he goes in NXT, he could chase down Carmelo. He beat Carmelo for the North American Championship, so that could be something they draw upon if he's going to spend any more time in NXT. But I couldn't have booked this myself. I thought the way they done it didn't even leave me thinking like, oh, Paul Wes. I was just thinking that scoundrel has made the title. Like, it was brilliant. It was really, really good.
Yeah.
Oh wow! So yeah, you mentioned the prospect of Wesley going to the main roster. I'm not set on him moving up to the main roster anytime soon. He's done an absolutely fantastic job, as we've said already, as the North American champion. But we've got to think as well that less than a year ago he was known as a tag team champion and as part of a tag team as well. As much as he did have and does have experience as a singles competitor. Before the whole thing with the Rascals with MSK and the Rascals in Impact, he did a lot of things as a singles guy in Impact or GFW at the time. But at the same time, he's had a hard road to get to where he is at the moment as a singles competitor with Nash Carter stroke Zachary Wentz, unfortunately just having to disappear from the company literally days after they became tag team champions. To put him on the main roster would not be wise for anyone, in my opinion. Whether for him, for WWE, for NXT, or whatever else, keep him there. Whatever he does, whether he chases the North American Championship again, whether he goes for the NXT Championship, whether he just has feuds for a while with some of the top brass like here, Dragunov and a few other people and stuff like Dragon Lee and those guys as well. Dijak was as well. You know what I mean? You can do all of that. That would be phenomenal.
Yeah.
But I think he definitely needs to stay and establish himself just that little bit more. In NXT. Gerald, what are you thinking when it comes to this whole possibility of a triple threat at Great American Bash?
In my head, that's kind of what I figured, that there'd be a triple threat with them. And I figure that somehow, Dirty Dom will find a way to sneak in and win that match. And we probably won't see him drop the belt for a little while because this is accomplishing multiple things. I think that if Wesley stays in NXT, it's not because he's not good enough to be in the main roster. I feel like they have to prepare the main roster for him, which means get a lot of smaller guys, get people accustomed to that. So there's enough people for him to, end up in the ring against. So you don't put him in there against a Bronson Lee, right? So I think that's kind of what they're waiting for, all while still establishing NXT as this third brand, So does he win the title? No. I think they have caught lightning in a bottle with Dom as a North American champion. Like, I mean, think about it. He's already had 2 title defenses and he's barely had the title a week, and now he can say he's beaten Butch and Sami Zayn. Like, this is a good thing for Dominic Mysterio, for the WWE. And I think it's a great opportunity for Wesley to now build on what he's established, because nobody will look at him as a tag team wrestler anymore after this North American title run. He's proven he can be the guy. So now the question is, do we let him fight with Tyler Bate and Mustafa Ali and all these people and lead him into a program potentially with Carmelo, or what do we do with them? But I do think we're going to get an amazing triple threat match on Sunday, yeah, for Great American Bash. I think it's going to be phenomenal. To your point, I also am not sure that Dom can keep the breakneck pace of being on Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. I think that's going to prove to be a lot for him. So, you know, the other thing is, I don't know what his plans are for SummerSlam. So we've got some interesting holes to fill here relative to Dominic Mysterio. And but what he's also doing for the North American title is pretty amazing. It's now been defended on Raw and SmackDown, which hadn't happened before. So
they said Dominic Mysterio is the first person in WWE history to main event Raw, SmackDown, and NXT in the same week.
Who would have ever imagined that? Who saw coming into 2023 that Dom would have that kind of history?
No John Cena, no Randy Orton, not even Sasha Banks when Sasha Banks was on every single show during the pandemic era.
Yeah,
no one but Dominic Mysterio.
It's amazing.
Just on Wesley again, there's rumors, obviously, Brian Pillman Jr. is coming into NXT.
Yes,
true.
That could be a good kind of high profile feud for Wesley to kind of sink his teeth in, away from any titles. You know, and it's obviously people will be it not being like a mainstay on AEW TV. People are going to look out for Brian Pillman on NXT TV, innit? Just namely because of who he's the son of. Whether they call him that, we'll see. But yeah, I think that could be a way to kind of start developing Wesley's character, because that's really what we're here talking about when we're talking about main roster. Yeah, it's the size thing, but there are small guys on the main roster as well. It's the character. It's being the happy-go-lucky guy. It's just not enough on main roster. So yeah, it's giving him kind of feuds like maybe Brian Pillman Jr. if he comes in as the, you know, loose cannon sort of thing, or you know, even a Dijak to some degree, and what Dijak's MOs tend to be, could be something new for him to deal with.
I think another person that would be interesting, and more so what they can do in the ring together, not so much the dynamics of characters, is Eddie Thorpe.
Yeah,
I think something between them two would be phenomenal. It's a shame that what's his name? The Irish ace is not in.
Oh, Jordan Devlin.
JD McDonough. It's a shame that he's not still down there as well. But then this is another thing I was going to say, based on what Mix was saying a bit earlier, is you've got the likes of your Johnny Gargano, Apollo Crews, now with JD McDonough, all these guys that are great, did great things in NXT. Now they're on the main roster and doing absolutely nothing. And that's the scary thing. That's why for now, I think what Gerard said is very important to kind of build a few other guys, because even now you've got, you know, Tommaso Ciampa's kind of coming through a little bit, you know, and a few others who need to come through, and you know, Ricochet is getting a bit of a rub at the moment, and all the rest of it. That would be great as well for some of the smaller guys and all that kind of stuff. So there's hopefully going to be space for him, but it can't happen right now. Right. On the note of Dominic, I want to say this about Dominic as well. I think what's amazing about what's happening with Dominic Mysterio, it reminds me very much of, but almost like a slower, even more slower burn, which is perfect, of the rise of The Miz.
Yeah, that's good.
It feels exactly the same. Someone that you look at and you think, even me, I'm not a wrestler, you know, I'm not a fighter, whatever else, I'm not the biggest guy. I look at them and think, I could beat you up.
Right.
I look at any other wrestler, I'm like, maybe not.
Yeah.
The Miz, Dominic, I could beat you up, mate.
Yeah.
So you're looking at them, you're thinking, this guy, but everything, they're hated. You know, you can argue that they're not the greatest in the ring, and all that kind of stuff. But I think that is the thing that works perfectly for everything that they're doing with him at the moment.
Can I mention one thing really quickly? And that is, now may be the time, and this might be taboo, but now might be the time to bring back the Cruiserweight Championship. I think seeing
the main roster or NXT?
To the main roster.
I think
to the main roster. Bring it to the main roster. Now that we've got, you know, McDonough, you've got Gargano, you've got a list of guys who could compete for this and make it something special, make it something prestigious. I think you could do that. And you don't need a 205 live to do it.
No.
You know, I say have this on Monday Night Raw where you've got 3 hours.
3 hours.
You know, you've got space to be able to fill that out. And you've got some really good competitors there that could make this something special. I think it's time for the Cruiserweight title to come back.
Great show.
Very, very, very interesting. A very good shout as well. On that note, the great shouts are now over. This has been the end of our show. This has been a WrestlXtra you're watching on the WrestleManiac UK YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the WrestleManiac UK YouTube channel, where you can find this guy Mex putting out all his videos and reactions on AEW, WWE, and everything else in between. You can also find Mex on the Wrestling's channel with the rest of the boys from the Wrestling's crew. Follow Mex on WrestleManiac.uk on Instagram and WrestleManiac UK on Twitter. You can also follow this guy, Gerard Bonner. This guy, who is, you can find him everywhere on Bonafide, on all platforms, and also on his own show, The Faction Show, with the rest of the guys down there. You can also catch him on WWT Live. You can also find him at Southern Honor Wrestling. You can also find him at Battle Slam. You can also find him at the Nightmare Factory.
Yeah.
All of them and more.
Oh, gosh.
Close to this man. He's doing a lot of stuff. And you can also follow me, Dazzle, on Black Wrestling Alliance on Instagram, BWA Dazzle on Twitter. Guys, this has been our show, and we will see you again next time.
See you later, people.